Hi everyone, you're watching the virtual Amicus and I'm Jay Lodha. So today's topic for discussion would be on building a successful practice in the field of criminal law. And today we are joined by a very special speaker who needs absolutely no introduction in this field, not just in the state of Maharashtra, but in fact pan India. Today we are joined by Miss Anandini Fernandes. And just to give you all a brief introduction about our amicus for today's session, Ms. Fernandes has pursued her law LLB from Government Law College, Mumbai, and she passed out with a first class. She's done a couple of summer programs successfully. One at Columbia University, where she did it on international human rights and international law, and the other being at Cambridge University, where the subject was law and aspects of English legal system. She also did her online certificate course in America's Unwritten Constitution from the Yale University. She's also done another online certificate course in Introduction to American Law with a 95% to her name from University of Pennsylvania, and another one at Case Western Reserve University in Introduction to International Law. She's also done her diploma in cyber laws from Asian School Cyber Laws, and she's been actively practicing in the field of criminal law. She's been associated with the chambers, esteemed chambers of Sri Satish L. Manshinde. She's done a lot of pro bono criminal work for the NGO, she says, India Women Welfare Foundation. And she specializes in Indian Penal Code, Code of Criminal Procedure. She's dealt with prosecuting defending offenses under the Bombay Prevention of Gambling Act, Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act, the Telegraph Act, and the list goes on and on. She's been regularly practicing not just before various magistrates in Sessions Court, but as well as Bombay High Court and the Honorable Supreme Court of India. And she's also supervised 4 junior advocates. She's worked for a number of commissioners, and she's also handled cases in the other states like Tamil Nadu, Goa, and she's worked daily with the police machinery, right from numerous local police stations to the Commissioner of Police for Mumbai. So we had to cut short the list of achievements owing to the paucity of time. So thank you so much, ma'am, for taking out time on a Tuesday morning. And anything that we wish to say before we start with our Q&A segment?
Yeah, I want to just briefly thank you, Jeff, for inviting me and for creating a platform such as this. I think when I went into law school, there was a dearth of platforms like this. And not being from a law family, there was a lot I didn't know. So having platforms like the virtual Amicus really help give you much needed information. So it's great that you started it, and I'm happy to contribute.
Thank you so much there for all the kind words. It really means a lot to me and my entire team. I think let's quickly start with our Q&A segment. And so question number one, what internships, ma'am, would you recommend in the field of criminal law? And this question is meant for law students who are watching this.
Jay or Jay, okay.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yeah, perfectly. Yeah. I
So
think you just, after I finished, I think you just lagged. Yeah.
yeah. So question number one, what internships would
Okay.
you recommend for law students who are watching in the field of criminal law?
Yeah. So firstly, not specific to criminal law, I would just say that law school is the ideal opportunity to explore as many diverse types of internships as you can. Someone like me, I was very sure since I was like 5 or 6 years old, if you can believe it, that I wanted to do criminal litigation. Okay. But I mean, what we think of criminal litigation and what it is in practice is very different. Once you graduate and you sign up for jobs or articles, mobility between different types of practice is much more difficult. So in my 5 years of law college, in the first 2 years, I tried to do as many different types of internships that I could, including corporate internships, civil litigation internships. Even though I was very sure I wanted to do criminal law, there was really no harm in exploring everything else. If nothing else, it would just make me even more confident about my decision. And then from the third year onwards, I focused on only criminal litigation internships. And actually, that's when I joined Mr. Maneshande. But I would say to students, if you're undecided about the kind of practice you want to do, or even if you're fairly certain about the kind of practice, there's no harm in exposing yourself to the different types of internships that are out there. Either it'll give you clarity or it'll give you confidence in your decision. I'm really glad that when I started, criminal law internships in my third year, I knew that I was bored of every other kind of internship and that this is what I wanted to do. So that would be my advice.
Great. And now this question is basically directed towards young lawyers who are watching this. How important is it to start your practice before sessions court or learned magistrate courts? Because most of the lawyers that we see today, they start their practice directly, at the High Court or before the Honorable Supreme Court.
It's extremely important. I can't stress this enough. I started interning with Mr. Manish in my third year of law school, and then I never left. I'd work for like 10 months of the year, give my exams, and come right back. And Mr. Manish doesn't limit his practice to the High Court. He does go to the Magistrate Court and to the Sessions Court even today. So I did get some exposure. But of course, Mr. Manishandi, being who he is, it's not that he's in the magistrate or the sessions court every day. He's in the high court every day, and the magistrate and the sessions court maybe once or twice a week. So my exposure to trial courts and my learning of those procedures was definitely limited. And I don't regret anything about my journey, but if there's one thing I could change, it would be, to start my internships or start my career with someone who's in the trial courts every day, who has maybe 3 or 4 matters for hearing before the magistrate or the sessions court every day. I think it's very important to learn those procedures and to learn how to conduct cross examinations and how to do final arguments and learn every aspect of a criminal trial. Because even if you limit yourself later in life to a high court practice, high court is an appellate court. A lot of what you will be arguing is deficiencies that happen in the lower courts. So if you're not well aware of those procedures, you basically have a handicap. So my advice would be definitely, at least for the first couple of years, to try and limit your practice to the magistrate and the sessions court and get as much trial exposure as you can. I think it would greatly help your practice.
Right. Thank you there, ma'am. Now, this is one question that, most of the viewers really wanted to ask you. So I'm putting it across. How does one identify the area of specialization in the field of criminal law? So now you have statutes like Prevention of Gambling Act or Protection of Children from Sexual Offenses, or there's so many other legislations that feel Prevention of Corruption Act. So is it
Right.
is it slowly and gradually that you identify what you're passionate about and then you work towards it, right? Or you do a little bit of everything and then you take a call on which area you will practice, that okay, this person will be doing bails, this will be doing appeals, criminal appeals. How does one identify the area of specialization?
Okay, so for me personally, I don't ever plan to limit my practice. Like you said, there are a lot of different criminal statutes, and every time you get a client, who's charged with a new statute, you get to learn, you get to grow. Bails follow a very set format, irrespective of the statute they're under, because the requirements for bail are set, irrespective of the statute, with a few exceptions. So for me personally, I would never like to limit my practice. There are certain exceptions. For example, the Negotiable Instruments Act, check bouncing cases. Those are virtually, civil procedures. They're highly technical. So you have a lot of lawyers who restrict their practice to that. And I do see the sense in that. I actually, when I first started, I would just take all the work that comes my way, and I still do, with the exception of 138 cases, because the law is evolving every day, and I feel like I don't manage to keep up with how it's evolving, and the trials are highly technical. So yeah, I mean, not that I'm against anyone specializing in a specific aspect, whatever that aspect may be, but just like my advice, for internships, same would be my advice for specializations. Definitely in the first couple of years of your practice, expose yourself to as many different areas of the practice as you can, to as many different statutes as you can. Um, And then if there's one area, like a lot of lawyers specialize in the NDPS Act or the Negotiable Instruments Act or the Terrorism Act, if something really draws your attention and you want to limit your practice, then 100% you should go for it. But before you make any such decision or you streamline your practice in that way, getting maximum exposure to everything that's out there is definitely highly recommended. Also, when you start off, remember, if you're the, like for me, I don't come from a legal background. I always want to have my own financial independence and support my own lifestyle. So if you try and streamline your practice too quickly before you have a solid client base, you're actually losing out on a lot of clientele, you're losing out on a lot of income and revenue, because you're only going to take one specific kind of case. Everyone who I know who's limited their practice to one specific area has done so much later in life, where they are confident that they have a strong enough client base to sustain their life and their practice on that one specific aspect. So I definitely would not advise it for young lawyers who are just entering the profession.
So coming, moving forward to our next question, the importance of online certificate courses or distance learning programs or even the master's program, the LLM for that matter, how important are
Hmm.
these degrees or courses in the field of criminal law, or is it just the practical exposure that counts or
Hmm.
takes a long way?
So my very honest opinion about how this helps you squarely in this field of criminal litigation, I don't think it makes any difference. Obviously, this does not apply to like corporate jobs and firms and all, where I'm sure additional qualifications, help you to a certain degree. In criminal litigation, actual, court experience and exposure is what helps the most. Now that sounds a bit hypocritical considering I've done so many of these courses. I've done them because I'm a nerd and I love studying and I love learning new things. And especially when you start off your practice, you have a lot of free time. When the lockdowns happened, there was a lot of free time. And I like learning. I enjoy the process, of learning, of writing assessments and stuff, which is why I did it. And all information is good. Education by itself is good. So if you have an interest, if you want to learn, if you want to grow, I highly recommend them. Now there are so many options available for you to do these online courses at a very limited expense. Some of these courses are even free. So if you're someone who, like me, enjoys education, enjoys learning, I mean, education has no negative aspect to it. So I recommend it from that perspective. Whether there's any tangible financial advantage or any other kind of advantage to a practice of criminal litigation, um no, I don't think it's significant enough to justify doing it. I do feel, like in certain areas, if I've done with, if because I did a course on international law, then when I was dealing with the NDPS Act, I had some background into like UN conventions and how they work, and how the global community also tries to regulate drug consumption. So there are bits and pieces that will come in handy in your litigation, but it's not mandatory. Do it if you want to learn more, if you want to enhance your education, and but it's not a requirement at all for criminal litigation.
All right. So, ma'am, coming to our next question, if a person has to structure his practice in the field of criminal law, what would your advice be to a young lawyer who's freshly out of law school? Should he join the office of or chambers of a public prosecutor to start with, or should he or she join a private chamber? How does it work? Should he or she be associated with a seniors chamber for that matter? Or it should be different
Mhm.
experiences culminating together in the form of criminal practice?
Yeah, so I don't think there is any set structure that your career needs to follow. I don't know. I mean, I've never explored an internship with a prosecutor. I don't know how many such opportunities are available. When I've been in court for the last 12 years, I've never seen a prosecutor enter with a young advocate or an intern or stuff like that. So I don't know the viability of interning, with the prosecution. Yeah, with the more senior prosecuting officers like the ASG and all, I have seen junior advocates with them. But with your regular, magistrate, police prosecutors, and public prosecutors, I've not seen them accompanied by anyone else. So I'm not sure about the viability of that. um, Again, in terms of law firms, of course, we have very limited criminal law firms in India. But if you prefer a more structured practice, and working in a firm environment, then you should definitely go for that. In terms of how you should start your career, I feel it's best to just see what you're comfortable with. I would always bear in mind to get as much trial and lower court experience as I can. So, whether that's through a senior counsel, whether that's through a prosecutor, or whether that's through a law firm, I would definitely try to expose myself to as many different statutes and as much trials as I can. How would I do that is really up to you. Like, I would say that while you're a student, criminal courts are open to the public at large. I would say while you're a student, visit courts. They're not like, what you see in Boston Legal or Practice and all of these shows. So I don't want anybody to get a culture shock. So when you're an intern, the best thing to do is, even if you're not associated or not doing an internship, just go to criminal courts. Magistrate courts are located everywhere. um, you know go to magistrate courts, go to sessions courts, see what the environment is like, see how comfortable you are in that environment. A lot of people see the rosy picture of criminal litigation. They don't see that, in Bombay, except the High Court, no courts are air conditioned. You die in the summer months with dehydration and headaches and stuff. You spend all day in court waiting for hours and hours for matters that sometimes don't reach. So it's very good to expose yourself to that while you're a student or while you're a young lawyer, and see whether you like that, whether that's something that's comfortable for you. Also see how comfortable you are talking in that surrounding. Like, when you see other lawyers talking, you'll be able to see, like, is that something that I'd like to do? Or, if you see a lawyer arguing in a packed court and you're like, no, I would never want to do this, then you know that you probably need to rethink. So I would say, don't structure your career when you start out. Just try and expose yourself as much as you can to trial courts, and to the different courts that are there. And how you choose to do that, whether through a firm, a chamber, or just on your own, is really up to you.
And I think to add to that, there are a lot of boutique law firms that have also opened up and mushroomed in the state of Maharashtra that are only specializing in the field of criminal law. Uh,
Right.
I think that could also be an option for young lawyers to join or take experience.
Yeah, I'm not like personally aware. Like, I've
Yeah.
offhand heard of these firms. I'm not personally aware. Um, that would definitely, if there are boutique law firms that are specializing only in criminal law, that will be great. What I do know about law firms is, a lot of the times when it comes to the actual arguing in court, they tend to appoint a senior to argue. So they do the drafting, the filing, and all, and then it's the senior that actually argues. So then you have to see whether you want to be part of the prep team or the performance team, or what you really want to do. But yeah, like, I think these specialty law firms were not really there too much in Bombay when I started my practice. So if they're there now, then that's definitely an option to explore.
Now, I'm coming to the importance of trial courts, the courts of trial, and the cross examination happens. Now, unfortunately, we see a lot of young lawyers not going through this hard process, this is grinding of going through the whole cross. And I hope that the time doesn't come when cross examination would lose its charm, because most of the young lawyers would land up or end up at the High Court or the Supreme Court. Now, what is your take on this?
So, like I said before, trial procedures and exposure to trials is an integral part of like criminal litigation. Um, you know, um, a cross examination, it's challenging, but it's also a lot of fun. And, like, so many times I remember when I was a junior, like, I'd read the statement of a witness and I'd be like, yeah, so the client's going to get convicted. Like, what is there to ask this person? Like, he knows everything, he's going to get my client convicted. And then, I'd watch my boss, over a span of a couple of hours, conduct a cross examination in a way where I would read that cross later and be like, yeah, this does not meet the standard of beyond reasonable doubt. So, I mean, it really is, like you said, it's an art. It's a very enjoyable but stressful process, and there will never come a day where trials are not needed, or where cross examination is done away with. So I would definitely tell everybody to please invest in learning the art of cross examination. It's not just cross examination. In certain cases, you even appear for the complainant. I mean, there are certain private cases that you can file, for example, criminal defamation, etc., where the state doesn't represent the prosecution. So even the manner in which you conduct examination in chief is also important, because you don't want your witness rambling on, and you don't want her to say things, or him to say things which the accused advocate can then tear into during cross examination. For both sides, I mean, we give a lot more emphasis on cross examination, but even examination in chief, it's far easier, but it's also important, and it's important that you do it well. I feel like you're definitely handicapping yourself by not exposing yourself to that, and not getting um enough experience there. Like, I feel like even me, because I started off in Mr. Manish India, and of course a large chunk of his clientele do come for bail and anticipatory bail and for quashing in the high court. I do feel like even my trial skills are severely lacking. So when I have a tough witness, I'm really prepping, and sometimes I walk into source cabin and be like, okay, what do I do? Like, I feel like my client's going to get convicted. So it's definitely a regret that I also personally have, that I didn't spend more time in the trial courts. The one thing I will say is, you might not have a whole lot of clients, or you might not have to conduct a whole lot of cross examinations, but a good way to learn is to just sit in the trial courts and watch advocates do it. That's how I've learned. If you sit in a magistrate court, you're guaranteed that there'll be at least one cross examination in the day. But if you sit in a trial court and you're playing Candy Crush on your phone, or you're standing outside the court to talk on the phone till your matter reaches, you're really doing yourself a disservice, because if your matter doesn't reach, you've wasted your whole day and learned nothing. So this is a discussion that I keep having with interns and juniors, that if we are going to spend so many hours in court, make them work for you, make them be worth your time. And how do you do that if your matter doesn't reach, or your matter gets adjourned? You do it by seeing how other advocates are arguing. Sometimes other advocates are relying on new case law. So many times I have managed to do like pseudo research, because a lawyer has mentioned a case law, and I found out it's something that I could use in another matter of mine. Or I've seen how other counsels are cross-examining, and imbibe some of my technique. So it's very important that when you're in a court, to pay attention and really imbibe as much information as you can.
Great, ma'am. Now coming to the importance of having a mentor. So who was your mentor in this field, and how did it help? How did they help you in your journey? Uh,
Mm. So obviously, my mentor is my boss, Mr. Manish Shinde, and he is not just my mentor in terms of like a criminal lawyer. Like, he is a great boss. Like, I think that I didn't realize how blessed I was till I saw my friends, and how they would complain about their bosses, or about how their work situation. Mr. Manish Shinde is extremely nurturing. He's extremely supportive of our individual practices. He's the kind of lawyer that the day I got my sanad, I called him, and he was like, okay, which matters do we have in the diary today? And I was like, XYZ. He was like, okay, X matter, you go and argue it. And that was like the first day that I got my sanad. And, you know, his logic is very simple. As long as the chamber matters are being handled, your time is your own. Please grow your individual practices. He'll meet my clients, he'll meet them for free and advise them, or just verify that the information or a consultancy that I've given them is correct. If I need to send out a notice and I feel his letterhead is far more impactful than my letterhead, he'll do it. I could not have asked for a better boss or a mentor. He really believes in work life balance. There are times where the chamber is completely crazy and you have no time to breathe, but when we get those lulls, he's all about go out, spend time with your family, spend time with your dogs. He takes a keen interest in our lives. Yeah, I could go on and on, but it's been 12 years. I think he shouted at me once in these 12 years, and we both ended up laughing half an hour later. So he's a really great boss, and I couldn't have asked for better. So yeah, having a good mentor is super important.
Great, great. And So you've handled some of the most high profile cases quite recently, not just page three Bollywood celebrities, but also the top corporate
Jay,
houses.
can you give me 1 second? Can
Yeah,
I be
sure,
back
sure,
in
please.
exactly 1 second?
So yeah, coming to our question, you've handled some of the most high-profile page three Bollywood celebrity cases, and which are, most of them are sub judice. They're pending adjudication, final adjudication before courts, and also represented some of the most top corporate houses. So how do you manage to stay so grounded and humble?
Um, I mean, honestly, like all of these clients, they're Mr. Manish and these clients. I'm just grateful for the work. And for me, really, like a client is a client. I'm always like interested in the work and the learning. So, and in every client and in every matter, there will be a learning from like the most serious cases to the most ridiculous cases. There's always stuff to learn, whether it's drafting, whether it's new case law, whether it's just client interaction and how to handle clients and deal with a matter. There's always something to learn. I think there are too many criminal lawyers out there who are far better and far talented than me, than for me to be on any ego trip. um, I'm very clear that I love criminal litigation. It's what I wanted to do since I was very young, but it's still a very small part of like who I am, like my family, my dogs, pro bono work, other charitable endeavors, or the outdoors. Those are all part of my life, just like criminal law is one part of my life. So I don't let any one part, take too much importance. But yeah, it's pretty easy, and I'm not even like that that cool to be like sitting on some high horse. So yeah, it's very easy. I don't find it a challenge.
And before we wrap this up, what would be your piece of advice to all the young lawyers and law students who are watching this as parting words?
I feel find a way to enjoy your work. If you don't enjoy it, then find something else. Our lives are too short and too unpredictable to not be enjoying what you do. Even when I'm working 20 hours a day or when I'm working 5 hours a day, I'm never complaining because it's something that I'm thoroughly enjoying. So definitely find an area of law that you enjoy. You should be looking forward to going to work. You shouldn't be dreading it. Um, I feel also never give your job too much importance. I mean, yes, having an income, having a job is extremely, extremely important. I can't stress that enough. But at the end of the day, it's a small part of your life, your family, your friends, everything else is far more important. So never get too bogged down. And maybe, I mean, I'm so full of advice. So I don't know whether it's useful or not. Probably the last thing is, never look at what someone else is doing or someone else's practice, or, how much they're earning or who their clients are. It's really not important. If you are going to look at it, then be like, oh, great, I'm so happy that person is doing well. I'm so happy that, honestly, criminal law is such a field that there's always enough work for everybody. And even if there's not, as long as you're getting work, it doesn't matter if someone else is getting more or less work. So, don't get into all of that. Just focus on, being a good lawyer, doing the best job that you can do every day. Your clients may not be satisfied with you, your seniors might have issues, but the one thing I keep telling my juniors is take ownership of your work and take pride in the work that you're doing. And if you have done your 100% and you are happy with the work that you're doing, then everything else is take it in one ear and take it out the other, which is what I do. Yeah, those are three pieces of advice.
I hope we've covered more or less everything, and anything that I missed out. I think more or less we've covered everything,
Yeah,
from internships.
yeah, I think we've covered everything. Otherwise, we can always do a part two
Part two.
anytime.
We would love to have you for a part two in case if you've missed out anything. But thank you so much, ma'am, Miss Anandini Fernandes, for taking out time on a Tuesday morning. I know, courts are hustling, bustling, and especially on a working day when there's so much of work and you have to rush to court at 9:30, 10. But you still took out time for this a little initiative on YouTube. And
Yeah, no, I'm so glad to do it. Like I said, this is such an important platform, and I'm sure it will help so many law students. So, congratulations to you for creating it and sustaining it. Before we go, I just want to say one thing, because
yeah,
there is this stupid misconception that criminal law is for boys. Please, criminal law is for boys, girls, and everything in between and outside. So, our chamber has 4 girls and 2 boys. So, women are definitely in the majority in our chamber. And, it's a perfectly safe profession for the most part. So, regardless of your gender or your identity, if it's something that you're passionate about, then definitely do pursue it. Yeah, sorry, just needed to add that.
Yeah, that was a very important input from your end, because I did see that picture that got viral on social media with Shah Rukh Khan, and there were 4 female lawyers there. So I think I verified it.
Yeah,
Very,
like there's place for everyone.
very. So thank you so much, ma'am, once again. So to all the viewers who are watching, our email is mentioned on the channel. In case if you have any of the queries, feel free to write to us. We'll be more than happy to forward the same to our Amicus for today's session. It was a fantastic session, extempore, and the Q&A sessions are the best because they are very interactive, and that is what makes the conversation even more interesting than to have a dry and a very boring lecture kind of a session. So thank you, ma'am, once again. We hope to see you again.
Yeah, definitely. Anytime.
If required. So it's goodbye for now.
See you. Thanks, Dad.